Hey everybody, welcome to the Good Evening Kitties podcast, the Tales from the Crypt review. My name is Melissa, your ghostess with the mostest, and today's episode is Season 6, Episode 7, The Pit. Here I have returning guest Cindy back to help me review this one. Hi Cindy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
So this is Season 6, Episode 7, The Pit. As always, John Kassir does the voice of the Crypt Keeper and Danny Elfman does the theme song. This episode aired November 30th, 1994. It was directed by John Harrison, who also directed the movie Tales from the Dark Side and the episode from Tales from the Crypt called Easel Kill Ya. The screenplay is also by John Harrison, and it stars Mark Dacascos from TV's Hawaii Five-0, Debbie Dunning from TV's Home Improvement. You would know her as playing Heidi, and she really gets into this role. Margene Holden from movies like Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which kind of makes sense what you were saying about how they were comparing this movie to Mortal Kombat. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fighting in this one. Stoney Jackson from TV's 227, and Wayne Newton from movies like Vegas Vacation, and he's also Wayne Newton. He plays a guy in here called Wink Barnum. Wink. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead here and read the description on the back of the box for The Pit. Let their nagging wives do the fighting. Wary steel cage brawlers dupe their bitter halves into the ring. See, that's another one where like they kind of give it away. I feel like they shouldn't, because the twist on that is that happens.
Yeah.
So the twist is the fun part. Don't tell it, you know?
Exactly. I mean, I didn't know what the twist was going in, so it was a lot of fun to see that little twist.
Yeah.
Like the last couple minutes of it.
So we're going to have start the episode for The Pit. Now, this episode came out, like I said, November 30th. And around this time is when the 12 Days of Cryptmas or the Christmas Crypt CD came out. So they decided to do a little in-episode advertisement. So the opening for this episode is the Crypt Keeper, and it's Christmas, and he celebrates Christmas. He's got a little Christmas tree with cute little like ornaments that are, some of them are like little Crypt Keeper ornaments and things like that. And he's in these cute little pajamas that have little Santas on them and a little like stocking cap. They have one of the songs playing in the background. Now, I've reviewed this CD before. It's pretty fun. It's a fun CD. It was only like a 20-minute review or something. So if anyone wants to check it out, you can go back and find it. But yeah, so I thought it was a cool Cryptmas tree. There was like a tiny Crypt Keeper and things on it. He brings in the episode. And it starts out opening up on the recording of a fight, like on a TV. And you're watching this fight, and it's these two guys, Felix Johnson and Aaron Scott. And they're fighting, and then it comes into, like, they're on this TV show, like, it almost kind of reminded me of, like, Geraldo Rivera, but I don't think it was probably that fantastical. It's just, like, a news show or thing, and they got the couples on there. And it's Debbie Dunning, and she's married to Aaron Scott, and then Andrea Johnson is married to Felix Johnson. They're sitting there with their respective husbands, and they're all just talking on this show. What do you think about this scene, Cindy?
It's really uncomfortable just because, so you can really tell, like, the women were the ones that had the animosity towards each other. And they were, like, talking crap to each other and all that. And, like, the more they got into it, like, the more uncomfortable you could see that the husbands were getting, and, like, their facial expressions. I think one point, the one husband had, like, pulled his hand away, and she, like, grabbed it back, which is, ooh.
This episode is different in the sense of, well, there's a lot of action in this episode, fight-wise, but there's also abuse. It's an abusive relationship from the women to the men, and the men are more of the ones being abused, and you can see it in their faces and expressions that they're in these horrible relationships of these women that used to fight but don't do it anymore, as they point out on this show, because they don't make as much money as men do as women, and why not have their husbands fight if they can make more of the money, which I get their point on that. But they're also on opposite ends of these couches or these chairs, and these women are just, the dialogue between these two women in this episode is fantastic. I so many, like, just calling each other a bitch and a slut and fat and cow and just all of them. And their husbands are literally in between them. And just like, okay, just on this live TV. They even have to bleep out Debbie Dunning's character because she said something. I don't even know what she said. It's just them, like, starting out talking about their husbands and then going off on each other. And everyone in the crowd's like, yeah, you go, girl, woo, woo. And you can just tell that these guys are stuck in their relationship. So this fight that they were watching was like a tie. So they want to do like another fight or set something up so that they can prove like, you know, which guy's the better one. And then there's also like some kind of movie deal that's coming up that they're both kind of fighting against to be in. It's kind of like I think it's like a Schwarzenegger type movie where they're going to play like the tough, you know, and their women really want them into that.
That's incredible, don't you think? That really is amazing. Now, since the match was declared a draw, a certain amount of controversy has developed as to how it all went down.
I thought it was a good fight.
Yeah, it was a clean fight. I mean, people got their money's worth.
Of course, if I had another round, I would have finished it.
Yeah, right.
Hey, I had the only knockdown, remember?
Look, I still had you on point.
All right, now, but what about the rumors that sabotage forced the judges to disqualify all weapons during the match? I mean, that could have affected the outcome.
Yeah, well,
The only person who needed sabotage to help win the fight would be Felix Johnson.
You know, that's just the low-class kind of remark you'd expect from someone with Aubrey Scott's background.
Oh, excuse me, Miss Private School.
I'd just like to know if either of you ladies ever feel trapped in the shadows of your husbands, or if you've ever considered resuming your own careers.
Well, as long as promoters are unwilling to pay the same for women's events as they do for the males, I am more than happy to let old Felix here bring home the bacon.
Amazing, this old cow finally said something I can agree with. I mean, why should we go out and punish ourselves when these guys can make double, triple what we can?
Besides, who would pay money to see a burnt-out has-been like Aubrey do anything except maybe rinse her hair to see what color she's using this month?
And so they end from being on the TV show with their men who look very uncomfortable. And it cuts back, and the way this episode's shot is kind of fun because it kind of jumps back from each couple to each couple. So you got Audrey and Aaron. Yeah, Audrey and Aaron. And they're back at their place, and she's on the phone, like, making deals for him. They're just trying to get these movie roles for their husbands. And in the background, their husbands are working out. So you have Felix on the treadmill, and he runs like a gazelle, I thought, the way he was running. He kept, like, picking his feet up. And he's hanging on her. He's just, like, running, and then, like, Aaron is lifting weights, and they're, like, pushing them harder, you know? And here's where it really kicks off to being abusive. So Andrea starts to turn up Felix's treadmill. And he's like, dang, girl, I'm not that slow, you know? And she smacks him across the face.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, so this is abuse.
Yeah. I think it's a testament to like how they talk to each other, the women do. They talk to each other the same way, and then they also talk to their husbands in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
And then there's some other things that the men say throughout that, like, really, I think, put a light on the fact that it really was an abusive relationship. Honestly, in that first scene, I think they should have just put the women, like, side by side and just let them duke it out. But, you know.
I think that was probably set up more to show, like, the guys are trapped in between. Like,
yeah.
These women are willing to yell across them to get their point across because they don't care about their husbands, and they just care about how they look and if they can get it over this other woman. Because they used to fight. Audrey and Andrea used to fight, and they kind of hit like a standstill too. Like they used to wrestle or like hit each other or whatever, and they kind of are at equal footing too, and they want one to come out over the other. And since they've not really retired, they just don't do it as much. They just have their husbands do it. Aubrey and Aaron, and he's done lifting weights, and she comes over and she's like heading out to go make deals for him. He's like wanting just to spend time with her, and he has this really good sad face where he's just like, okay, because she's like, I'm gonna go and I'll be back, and you just make yourself comfy and do what you want to do, and I'll be back. And he's like, all right, thanks, love you. It's like, oh, it's so bad. And then when she goes to leave, she opens the door, and there's some less better looking than her husband, I would say, man, this blonde guy who's also muscular, and she doesn't even, like, she just tells him to be quiet, and then she leaves. So she's leaving also to meet this guy. So it's not that she's gonna go make deals, she's meeting this guy.
Yeah.
But she has the audacity to dress really nice. She's got, I mean, these women have legs, and they like to show them off in this episode. So, yeah.
I did notice there's a contrast. Aubrey wears more of the, like, dresses and stuff, but if you notice, especially later, too, it seems like the other chick, she, wears a lot more of, like, the jumpsuits, but, she's still showing, like, her midriff and stuff.
Yeah.
But
there is one where she's wearing that orange dress coming up soon that her legs are like forever long. But yeah, she does tend to wear more of like the tracksuit kind of things. Yeah, the other girl, Aubrey's more like, I'll fight in whatever. This is just a trash bag stretched up to a dress. I'll wear it. I mean, it is on HBO, so maybe it's like for everyone watching, being like, oh, you don't know if that dress will break. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
It's HBO. So now we cut to Wink Barnum, played by Wayne Newton, and he is like I think technically they are in Vegas. He kind of runs fights and sets up cage matches and all kinds of stuff and just whatever he can to make money. And he says he's bored. He comes up with this idea that if he can do a cage match between these two guys, he's watching the fight in the background of their old fight that was a stalemate. He's like, if I can get these two guys back in the ring in some like no holds barred cage match, we can make a $10 million idea he says he has. I'm like, I don't know about how much, but okay.
Yeah, let's be honest though. I feel like it was Wayne Newton playing himself the whole time. He had the Vegas chicks behind him.
Yeah, because I was like, in my notes, I'm like, Wayne Newton is giving his all. He's just Wayne Newton in all over the place. And so this guy who's like presenting on TV, the reporter, comes up and he's talking about the fight and how they should try it again and all this stuff, and then it gives Wayne Newton the idea to set up this fight. And I do want to point out, so this guy who plays the reporting guy, I noticed him right away when I watched this episode. So this is from '94. And I saw him, and I recognized his voice, and I used to watch a lot of infomercials years ago. I had a bunch of favorites and things, and this guy is definitely in it. He always was with some woman, usually like Kathy What's-Her-Face, who does like the dump cakes. He'd be with her or some other woman, and he was always like trying these air fryers or something, and talking about losing pounds and things like that. And so I recognized him right away. He's not the set it and forget it guy. That's Ron Co. or Ron something. I do remember that one.
How many infomercials do you watch?
I used to watch a lot. There's a lot of them. They're funny. So he went on to do infomercials. I just thought that was interesting. Yeah, so Wayne Newton decides to come up with this fight idea. And they show a couple other clips of just how much these women don't like each other. Just them literally coming out on TV and being like, yeah, that slut, that crazy fat slut. No one really even flinches that much. So they're like, yep, she just called her a slut on TV, that's fine.
Trailer trash, I think, is Andrea calls Aubrey that at one point.
Yeah, because she's from like Texas or something, so yeah. So he calls up the two women, and they come over. This is where Andrea's wearing that really good dress. Like, she's got her like really long legs, Yes. She looks great. He's got this Wayne Newton has this tiny little metal like cage diorama, in case you didn't know what a cage match is.
It's Wayne Newton. Do you really need to have an explanation for it?
Well, he has a personal assistant, some older lady. He was probably like, girl, get me a diorama of a cage match. These two broads are really dumb, and I need to explain to them that this is a cage match. He brings them in, and of course, right away, they're like bitchy, and he's getting like some champagne together for them. And
get me Judd Campbell's office in Hollywood. I've got $100 million idea. A Malaysian rules death match. Johnson versus Scott. The match of the century. Chaos in the cage! It's magnificent. Is this magnificent?
Well, the Romans would surely approve.
I remember staying up all night watching you when you won the gold medal in Barcelona. I was sure you were going to turn pro after that. In fact, I was kind of looking forward to promoting some special events with you.
Let me get this straight. You said Malaysian rules?
Yeah, no time limit, no restrictions on moves or weapons. Anything goes, till one man concedes or is rendered totally unconscious.
Define totally unconscious.
Kind of like your husband is already. I knew I smelled dead fish in here.
My, would you look at this? Would you look at this? You're even more beautiful than when I saw you win the Nationals in Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah, I remember that night. Felix and I were stranded in a blizzard in Denver. Had to forfeit my match. Lucky break for you, Aubrey.
Listen, you bitch, I've already kicked your ass earlier this year in Johannesburg.
I had the flu.
Well, I'll kick it again right here, right now, unless, of course, you're coming down with something.
Are you forgetting Pittsburgh, May '92?
No, I remember. Heard you only had to fuck, 2 judges to win that one?
Oh, you lying whore. I had to rip that ugly wig you call your hair right off your head.
You go ahead, baby. You give it your best shot.
Whoa. Girls. Let's try and be a gentleman about this, huh?
Debbie Dunnan looks great. They both look great. But like some of these dresses are just, they're so tiny. Like, so tiny. And Wayne Newton's in this like full like 3-piece suit or whatever, and the women start talking about their old fights and how each one like bested the other, and he's just like, ladies, calm down, let's get your men into this fight. They want to do a Malaysian death match, like chaos in the cage, spelled with K's. I think it's Kaos, and cage is Kage, because whatever. They are going to put their husbands in this Malaysian death match in the cage or whatever, where you can use anything you want to fight. They just like have all these weapons. You can use like trash can lid or these sticks, and there's like flames. And I don't know if you ever watched a lot of wrestling or fighting back then. I watched a little. I don't really care about it now, but I do remember seeing like The Undertaker take out some people in a cage match, and they'll just like kick a chair over to them, and they're like, oh, guess I'll use this, and just pick it up and take them. You're like, all right. So he talks these women into agreeing. Their husbands don't even know. Are we supposed to believe that these women are like their managers or something? I mean, I guess in a way.
I think they are.
Yeah, it seems like they are.
Yeah.
So I guess they retired or, put away their fighting stuff for now, and then they just manage their husbands. I guess gives them more power and abuse over the relationship too. So
yeah, I like how Andrea at the end there, I did just notice that she was like hesitant to she was the last person to cheers when they were all agreeing to do the death match.
She's like, oh, I don't know.
I guess so. I guess we'll do this. Have you ever watched on MTV the Celebrity Death Match?
I did.
That's how I kind of remember, like an offset of that almost, like where they would have like no holds bar. I mean, it was clay people, those clay versions of like celebrities and deathmatch.
That show was ridiculous.
It was funny.
It was something. Like I remember. I know there was one where like the Backstreet Boys fought NSYNC, and it was like a tag team thing. I think they could like tag each other in for claymation or whatever. It would get real gory.
It would. Yeah, but I think it's funny too that all of this like predates, like, now they have those big HBO specials, the pay-per-view like fights and stuff. I mean, I'm sure that was still somewhat of a thing back in the 90s. I was like under 10, so I don't remember. Yeah. But like nowadays, I mean, you have those big pay-per-view fights that you like pay
for. MMA stuff and things like that, See, I'm not big on watching people hit each other in the face. So, and I don't like to get hit in the face or hit in the face. So for me, I mean, that's fine, I guess, if you want to do it. It's just not my thing. Personally, if I got hit in the face, I'd just start crying and the fight would be over. I'd be like, you know what? You win. It's fine.
Yeah. You broke my nose, but it's bleeding.
Oh my gosh, if they broke my nose, I would pass out. Like, that's one reason I like getting hit in the face, because of my nose. My nose is there. It's sensitive. I think I'd just be like, I'd explode in a poof. Like, I'd just be like, I can't handle it.
You wouldn't try to, like, break it back?
Oh, God, no. I just scream. I would scream and pass out. That's all that would happen. I don't like any of that. And then I'd be traumatized for the rest of my life. I'd just be like, remember that time I broke my nose? It was horrible.
So no plastic surgery, rhinoplasty, anything like that?
Well, I've had nasal surgery. 6 years ago, I had nasal surgery. Even that, like, them, like, going to the ENT and having them look down I was just like, I knew I needed it, and it's helped since then. There was a time I went to the ENT, and he was checking, and they, like, spray your nose down with lidocaine, so it's kind of numb. And they take this long metal rod, right? And it's got, like, a little camera in it or whatever, and they stick it down into your nose, right? And I had my head on the chair, and I'm, like, leaning back, and he's looking back there, and all of a sudden, the neck of the chair bent, like, I guess it wasn't locked as close, and my head went back like that. He could have almost stabbed the back of my nose, because the way I jerked, he didn't expect it. And I didn't either, because the chair wasn't properly set. And then I was like, whoa, okay. Then I was like real still. I was just like...
We are not moving.
Yeah. I mean, no, he's a fantastic doctor, but it was just like, that scared the crap out of me, because we were not expecting it. And I was like, no, it's too close to my nose. So yeah, so I don't know if you've ever been tested for COVID.
Yes.
It's not that bad for me, because I had a ton of crap in my nose, so... People are like, oh my God, it's so insane. And I'm like, yeah, it feels weird, but I'm like, I mean, I had stents pulled out of my nose, so for me, it's not that big a deal.
Some people compare it to getting, like, the Egyptian, like, brain scramble. I was like, nah, it's not that bad.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of nose. What do you not like? Is there anything, like, you're real screaming? Like, are you screaming about, like, eye horror or anything? Like, eyes getting messed up?
Eyes. Because I have an eye injury that, like, I have an eye condition, so, like, anything with the eyes, or, like, even, like, in the Game of Thrones, there's, like, one character that gets, sorry, spoiler alert, gets his, like, kill, but like he like has his fingers on the guy's eyes,
yeah,
and I can't watch that scene for the life.
It is a bit screamy, yeah, because you don't expect him to just like just dip down into his eyes, like
yeah, eyes, teeth, bone sticking out.
Teeth is a good one. Yeah, teeth is a good one.
Yeah, I have family members that are in the medical field, so you think I'd be like more okay with it, but like bone sticking out of skin, no.
We were watching Near Dark last night. I know it's a vampire movie, so I'm supposed to be used to it because they're drinking blood. I don't like the whole, like, when they feed off each other.
Oh, yeah.
And there's, like, a couple of parts where he's just, like, sucking the hell out of this woman's arm. And she just, like, kind of bit down on her arm to open it. You know, I'm just like, no, thank you.
I think they do that in Underworld, too.
Ugh. Because, I mean, that's kind of part of the lore. You feed off them, but it's, like, it's still just, like, it's a lot. I don't think I could be a good vampire.
No, I probably would starve.
Yeah. I have to eat my cat. I wouldn't. Gus is in here. He's on the futon being good and sleeping. So anyway, back to the pit. So the guys are mad because they got put into this Malaysian death match. I guess they actually do mean death. Do they mean death? I would imagine it's just you beat the crap whoever passes out first. Then you say death match.
Pass out, but I really feel like it is a death match because it was like there's no time limit. There's like you can use anything you want. So I feel like somebody would die at the end.
But even if you pass out, I feel like it's wrong to come over and just keep beating the crap out of them with a chair.
True, but if they have a head injury or something,
that's true. Or like internal bleeding or something.
Yeah, like they could still die.
So there's this fun scene here where the guys they kind of shoot back and forth from each couple to the other. And they're all like, why did you do that? I can't believe you did that. And then the women are like, you'll be fine. You're going to have to kill him. And he's like, the one guy's like, I don't want to kill him. He's cool. And I'm like, oh, they like each other.
Malaysian death match? How could you agree to that?
What's the big deal? It only took you 10 minutes to put Hong Lee on permanent disability last year.
Yeah, that's right. But Hong Lee is no Aaron Scott.
And besides, the last time me and Felix went at it, the judges called it a draw.
Well, there's not gonna be any draws this time, baby.
Listen, that's exactly what I mean. I mean, we're gonna have to hurt each other.
Oh, you're gonna have to do more than hurt him. You're gonna have to drop him dead.
But I kind of like the guy. He's cool.
No, you don't like him. You hate him.
He is a piece of gum stuck to your shoe.
Listen, honey, even if I lose, I mean, we'll still be richer than God.
I don't give a rat's ass about the money. I am not about to let this stuck-up Boston bitch.
That no-class Texas tramp.
24-karat phony.
That trailer park trash.
Get one over
on me. You're gonna go in there.
And you're gonna kick some butt.
You're gonna win that match.
And get me to Hollywood. Is that clear?
Okay, sugar, honey.
Yeah, I think that's like the first moment where we get notification that the two guys actually do like each other.
Yeah, they're cool with each other.
I kind of mentioned to you, like, I kind of wonder if that first match was a draw on purpose.
You mean just because they were friends?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Maybe they were too afraid to, like, have the other one get nagged on by their wife. They would have lost, so they were like, well, maybe we'll just make this a tie, and then maybe our women will let it go. And it's like, no, they didn't. They just doubled down. So then it shoots to where they're setting up the cage match, and chaos in the cage, and you got Wayne Newton and his showgirls, and they show it being shot from a camcorder, and they're setting up, the guys are practicing in the cage, like what they would fight, and there's some really good fight scenes here, especially from Mark Dacascos. He's just like flipping all over the place and like doing a lot of fun stick fighting and stuff. And they're practicing with these other guys, and then Aubrey comes in to introduce her husband, and then right away, gosh, what's the other woman's name?
Andrea.
She's like, bitch, and then like gets all mad, and yeah, so like changes back and forth from like a reel to a taped show, and the women again going off on each other. Everyone's got to hold them back because they hate each other so much, and then it cuts to this nice like quiet scene, and there's no one in the place except for the two guys. So you got Felix and Aaron, and they're hanging out watching the empty cage, which they're just letting anyone into this arena. I mean, I feel like it would have been shut down, but I guess since they're the fighters, they can come in there. They have this nice little conversation where they just like talk about things they like to do and how they're ready for the fight.
Wondering how much lunch you need to get up on that platform?
Nope. But wondering if coyote dung is a good cactus fertilizer. I grow them, you know.
No, I didn't. Cactuses.
Cacti. I got a whole farm of them over in Arizona. But I got these coyotes shitting all over the place, and if they mess up my crop, I swear I'll single-handedly put the little bastards on the endangered species list. Man's gotta have a hobby, right? I mean, can't keep doing this forever. Can we?
Yeah. It's gonna be a mess, all right.
I can handle it.
You bet.
So can you.
You bet.
How'd it come down to this, I wonder? I mean, how'd we let it go this far?
There's only 2 reasons I can think of. Both of them female.
No turning back now, I guess. You having second thoughts?
Not really. You?
No.
Like you and I were talking about, at what point did they know, or were they in on the twist?
I don't think they were yet. But yeah, I think it was around this time. So next thing you know, it shoots to Andrea, and she's getting a phone call, and she gets a phone call that finds out that someone tells her that Felix, Aubrey's husband, has been messing with his weapons, like altering them and stuff, and like I guess you can't do that. And so she's mad. She's like, oh, I'm going to go down there and, like, I guess get rid of those weapons or whatever. And at the same time, Aubrey is getting a phone call about the same thing. Now, when we cut to Aubrey, there's this fun scene. I remember if you guys listened to the last episode, I did mention how season 6 is a bit more of a sensual, let's try to make it kind of sexy season. The last episode, the bribe is in a strip club. So this one here, you just see, like, a parallel bar, right? Aubrey is doing pull-ups, right? And she's got like you can see her wedding ring, and she's doing pull-ups, she's got stuff, and she's making these noises that are like more than just working out. I mean, I've worked out at gyms, and sometimes you'll hear guys and stuff like, go! They'll drop the weights at the end, kind of thing. You're like, okay.
Hulk smash.
You're like, all right, man. But she's making these noises that are like not just working out, and I'm like, gosh, she's really getting into it. And then she gets a phone call, and she goes to one-handed pull-ups, and I'm like, okay, she's not actually doing pull-ups. She's on the ground. She's gotta be, because she's still on the phone, like, pulling up, just like, what? Oh, that crazy bitch. Just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they cut, and she's like, you know what? She, like, does, like, a couple really good pull-ups, and then backs off, and she's like, okay, I'm done. And you find out her lover or whatever, the blonde guy, is what?
On the bench.
On the bench. Underneath her. She was lifting up and falling down on that D. Wow, that's what we're doing? Okay. So that's how she kind of tries to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. She gets in a workout and then a little bonus workout.
I mean, she's trying to stay in good shape.
I mean, she looks great. But yeah, I was just like, all right, we're going to throw that in there real quick. So that's what she was doing. And so she's still, because she's only got like a dress on. And then the guy underneath her gets up and he's like, woo! Like, he's all like, oh, that's great. Just like sweaty. And she's like, I gotta go. So she gets dressed in her best, like, leathery dress thing, and then the other chick wears, like, a little pantsuit.
With, like, a beaded jacket on top.
Yeah. So they head down to the cage. You got Aubrey, and she's going through all the weapons, and she's, like, double-checking to see if they've been messed with. And then that's when, from out of, like, in the middle of the cage, there's this sewer grate, and you can, like, climb up through the middle, and that's where Andrea shows up. And then, of course, now that they're in this cage, they start fighting. And Andrea takes the lid of the trash can, and they start fighting, and they don't fight that far. It's like one little hit. Andrea has the upper hand, and she pushes Aubrey into the fence, and then you see it being shot from a camera, and like they see these lights, and they're like, what? Someone's been taping them.
Yep.
I don't need to sabotage weapons. Felix is a loser. But then again, I guess you'd know that. It's how he ended up with you, isn't it?
Funny. I don't remember being the loser working in a Cleveland mud wrestling dump.
That was just an exhibition.
Oh, for 2 years? Aubrey, I don't really give a shit if Felix gets that job or not. All I care about is that you never see the inside of a movie studio, ever.
Well, isn't that a shame? Because as soon as I get done kicking your gold-plated fat ass into the has-been locker room, I'm on the first plane back to L.A.
The hell?
you're doing. Fuck it.
You start hearing these clapping, the slow clapping, and then all of a sudden everything kind of lights up and the crowd is in the audience and they're cheering them on to fight. How did they sneak this audience into this place? Because it's very echoey. For a second I thought maybe it was supernatural, but it's not. There's not really any supernatural stuff in this episode. But yeah, how do you think they got everyone in there?
I think maybe they got everyone in there, then called both of the prospective women, and then probably got them in there and told everybody you gotta keep quiet until they get in there and they start fighting, and then you can cheer.
I mean, I guess maybe he even offered, I could see, like, they offered him, like, free tickets or something, like, if you're quiet. But, I mean, to keep that many people quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they got, like, the 15 million people they were wanting, because it was, like, a last-minute thing. But they still had a decent crowd. But it could also be, I guess, that the women were so absorbed in themselves that they didn't notice. Because it is really dark. But it's just like, yeah, these people just all show up out of, like, nowhere almost. And then there's cameras, and it's being filmed, and it's like, woo! And then so the women, instead of being like, what the hell, let us out of this cage because now they're trapped, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's just fight. And it's like, you could have just been like, you know, we refuse to fight. But no, they're not that, they're horrible people. So they fight, and then they fight and all this stuff, and then it cuts back to Wayne Newton's penthouse thing, and the two guys are sitting there, and the two husbands are sitting there, and they're watching, and that's when he makes the comment about, oh, she never hit me that hard, which I'm just like, it's a little cringy.
Yeah, or, no, I think it was, like, when she scratched me, I had to get, like that, I had to get 3 stitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we're making light of physical abuse, but okay. So I think what happened is maybe they were sitting there having that conversation the night before, or whatever night that was. And then when it cuts away from them, I think maybe at that time when they start talking about the women and it cuts away, maybe that's when they got the idea. So so then they were like, what if we had them fight? So then they probably like called Wayne Newton. He was like, let me set that up. Because technically it still is, Scott versus Johnson. It's just the women now. He didn't lie. It's still the same type fight he was wanting. And so then they were able to get the women to that place and then basically trap them and just let them go all out. And they make a point of like, oh, they might kill each other. And they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this might happen. That's the twist, that they end up setting up their wives to fight instead. And then the guys admit at the end that they're going to both go into that Schwarzenegger type movie together and just have 2 of those people, pulverizers or whatever. So they're like best friends now, and then that's how the episode ends. What do you think of this one, Cindy?
I liked it. I thought it was entertaining, and it was interesting that like no one died on screen in this. I mean, we assume probably the wives probably killed each other.
Beat themselves to death.
Yeah.
Beat each other to death. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I think I liked it better watching it again and kind of thinking about it again. Like, when I watched it, the twist is kind of fun. I just feel like it's a bit stretched on how they were able to plan that all in, like, a day.
Yeah.
But it was definitely, like, it's definitely, it's a memorable one. So that's the end of the episode there. It cuts back to the Crypt Keeper, and he's basically just finishing up the advertisement for his CD. And he's talking about putting Yule on the log, and then they show a little person as an elf. His name is apparently Yule, and they're going to put him in the fire or whatever. And then, yeah, just, like, shows the CD, like, see the CD? So, it's not a bad CD. It's fun. Yeah, so that's basically it. He's just throwing out those puns. Crypt Keeper, you're so punny. And the best Crypt Keeper pun is...
I don't know about you kiddies, but my money's on Aubrey. I think she's a little fester to the punch. Well, you know what they say? The scream always rises.
There is some IMDb trivia for this episode. The Chaos in the Cage match is a fictional presentation of HBO Sports. The Tales from the Crypt series originally aired on HBO. So they did do that kind of stuff on HBO Sports. So that's the end of the episode. Season 6, Episode 7, The Pit. The next episode is Season 6, Episode 8, The Assassin. Thank you, Cindy, for being on this episode. Hope you had a good time.
Thank you, I did. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And thank you all out there for listening and downloading this episode. If you want to leave a 5-star review, please leave one on Apple Podcasts or Facebook, and I will read it on the podcast. You can also follow Gus the Podcat at a sweet cat named Gus on Instagram. You can follow the Good Evening Kitties podcast on Facebook, as well as Twitter at Gek Podcast or at GEK Podcast. And you can find this podcast pretty much anywhere. But yeah, if you want to email me too, you can do that at goodeveningpod@gmail.com. And again, thank you so much. Cindy, say bye.
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 I just had quite a scare. thought my heart was beating again.
You're listening to KZOM, Oleander Public Radio.
Thwart your enemies and gain comrades. Join a cult. Learn of terrible meetings in lonely places, of cyclopean ruins, which vast staircases lead down to abysses of nighted secrets, through complex angles that lead through invisible walls to other regions of space and time, and of hideous explorations in remote and forbidden places. Weird fiction, cosmic horror, gothic lit, ghost stories and folklore, media reviews, and special guests. People's Guide to the Cthulhu mythos. Look for it where you find all of your, I don't know, spooky-ish podcasts. Yeah, or yeah,